Making Ghana a reading nation is the responsibility of everyone home and beyond. It is in this spirit that EU Ambassador to Ghana, Country Representative of UNESCO Ghana, Secretary General of the Pan-African Writers Association, and the Secretary General of the Ghana Commission for UNESCO will lead a read change session with children from inner cities and Zongo communities using the World Reader Book Smart app.
All right, my name is Eunice Tony, and I host ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. So I'm very happy you had an energizing session with Uncle Oswald, and we would like to welcome you to the 19th Ghana International Book Fair event number 7. And we're all looking at making Ghana a reading nation. It's the responsibility of everyone. That's why you're here. And in this spirit, we have diplomats. We have a representative of UNESCO Ghana, Secretary General of the Pan-African Writers Association, and the Secretary General of Ghana Commission for UNESCO. They all will lead a reading session with you, and we want to make it really interesting.
I've been reading from the book Lost at the Beach, chapter 1. The village is situated in the southeastern part of Ghana, where the Greenwich Meridian divides the earth. The Kasi coastline is a flat expanse of land.
Oh, Akoto! The class chanted. Some of the pupils laughed, others hooted, while Mrs. Echia tried desperately to get the excited children under control.
I see. Maybe you have nothing else to do after school, so you read, Akoto teased. That's not true, Achupi exclaimed. She turned a pair of teary eyes on Akoto. He had hurt her feelings.
Atsupu and Akoto walked in a leisurely manner towards the cluster of thatch-roofed houses. Akoto pulled out a football from his backpack and began to bounce it with his right foot.
Of course, Achu said, grinning mischievously. I followed the older boys last week on their crab hunting expedition. It is a straight path after you turn left from the main road.
So when you go back, remember at the book fair today, we all learned about lost at the beach. We should not be disobedient and we should not laugh at people. So if there are no further questions or expressions, we'll all want to say a very big thank you to you all for showing up and for participating. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next book fair. So put your hands together for yourselves and for us.
In 1993, Ms. Akosia Ofori Mensah started her own publishing house, Sub-Saharan Publishers, for children's books. Akos has served on the Ghana Publishers Association as the honorary secretary and vice president. She was elected president of the association from 2003 to 2005. Akos was the past chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Ghana International Book Fair from 2004 to 2005. She has been a board member of the African Publishers Network, the IB Executive Committee, and is part of African Books Collective Council of Management. African Women's Voices show will take you over to the National Theatre as she gets awarded as the Personality of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so eager to introduce you to this woman who has made a lot of difference. To stay tuned.
I'm going to have a very brief ceremony and we'll want to have it as spot on as possible. So I need your cooperation to make it work. All right, so we're going to be having an introduction of GIBF made to us. I know quite a number of us already know GIBF, but this award or this honoring ceremony is one that may be new to some of us who are watching right now from their various locations live on Facebook. So we'd want you to have an understanding of what we are having tonight. So please, let's put our hands together for Ernest. He's going to lead us in that conversation.
Since the establishment of the Ghana International Book Fair in 1996, a lot of interesting educative events have been organized. So this year we decided to also look within the publishing aspect and see who qualifies to be honored this year. So 19 Ghana International Book Fair Personality of the Year is going to, we are going to honor Ms. Akusia Oforimensa, CEO of Saharan Publishers, for her contributions towards the development of books, reading, publishing, not only in Ghana, but also in Africa and the world.
For us in publishing, she has been one of the best so far. Her journey has not been quite easy, as we all, those who are with her will know. Having started, she can correct me when she comes up here, but I know she started working within the publishing industry right from the 1970s. And if I'm not wrong, starting from 1975 or thereabout, 76. Thank you. And since then, she has been consistent. And in fact, growing, such that we are able to say that the presence of Ghana's books outside our jurisdiction has been solely by her presence at some of these international book fairs.
Nana bre. Nana. I go. Hey.
You're very welcome once again. Wow. And I remember so well that when I got to meet you, I said, have you always wanted to be a writer? And you gave me an interesting response. Could you let the audience know this response you gave to me?
I've always liked stories, and I read, European stories when I was a child. So when I grew up and I went into publishing, my ambition was to make African stories available to African children, at least.
Okay. So your ambition was to make African stories available to African children. And a whole lot of you who are watching us right now and even seated here can understand that it is one thing we have become particularly interested in, because we want our children to know where they come from. We want our children to practice our culture, our beliefs, and behave the way we were raised to also behave, because there's so much foreign influence. So for that reason, you find parents now getting so interested in what movies their children are watching, what books they are reading, what kind of friends they are associating with. And I'm very happy that we have someone who started publishing looking at children. She enjoyed stories and she started with children. So let's go through the journey of how you started. You loved stories so much and you didn't want to go into textbooks like other people have been doing. You decided to move into an area of stories for children. So take us along.
As I said earlier on, I grew up, in going to school, I grew up on European stories. Stories like Oliver Twist,
Gulliver's Travels?
yes, and stories like that. And when I grew up and I went into publishing, I felt the Europeans have shared their stories with us. So we should also share our stories with them, and we should even know our own stories. So I started doing stories, African stories, folk tales. And I remember one time I had gone to a meeting in Toronto, and on my way back home, I stopped in London, and I met my principal author, and he is Mesha Kasari. We met in a mutual friend's office, and this man who is, he has passed away, Mr. Bentley, he pulled his drawer and he gave me a manuscript, and he said, "Of course, are you interested in this manuscript?" And I read it. There were sketches in it, and I told Mesha, "No, I want you to complete this work and do it in color. At that time, most children's books in Ghana were in black and white. So I said I wanted the book in color. And Meshach agreed to do it. And when he finished, he sent me the manuscript and the drawings. And I published the book. And this is the book. It's called Score.
Wow. So score. I have something to ask her next about this social score. Please go ahead.
And you know, Susu's Call is a story about a handicapped boy living in a coastal village. And as you know, in our society, very often we don't pay attention to people who have got physical disabilities. So in this village, this boy is left in the house. Everybody goes to do their business. The parents go to the farm. The other children go to school, and he is left alone in the house with his dog for company. Then one day, a storm brews on the sea, and the place is threatened by floods. And this boy is the only person, and the other people in the village are old people, old men and old women who can't move, who can't go anywhere. And he felt that he must do something to save the village. And he had a dog. So he followed the dog to where they keep the drums in the village. And with all his strength, he beat the drums and he raised the alarm. So the people in the fields realized that there was something going on in the village, and they rushed back and they saw the floods, and they were able to rescue the old people and the boy. And they were very, very excited and extremely grateful to this boy, because until that time, everybody thought he was useless. He's a cripple, he can't walk, and nobody pays him much attention. Even when he goes where people are having fun, they drive him away. But on this occasion, when he was able to call the elders to come and save the village, they realized that even a crippled boy is of some use to the community. And as such, they asked him what he wanted, and he said he wanted to go to school like everybody else. So they got him a wheelchair and sent him to school. And in fact, the children in the village were happy even to smoothen the road so that he could ride in his wheelchair and go to school. And the lesson in the book is that in our society, very often we don't pay much attention to people with physical disabilities. We ignore them, or we think they are useless. But they can be useful when they get the opportunity. And this book, I would say that is the best thing that I ever did by publishing this book.
Very true. I want to announce what is written around the book. This book has won prizes and awards, including 1999 UNESCO First Prize for Children's Literature in the Service of Tolerance. It has also won a listing among the top 12 of Africa's 100 best books of the 20th century. This same book is listed in 2001 IB Outstanding Book for Young People with Disabilities, an honor book award by African Studies Association and Library of Congress, and 2005 IB Award, Brazil. Source's Call has been published in North America and the UK, in Spain, and in Spanish language, Castellano and Catalan, Czech, German, Portuguese, French, Kiswahili, Italian, and Danish. It's a must read for every child, seriously speaking. And even while we were having our conversation, she told me that a new translation has taken place, and that's in Chinese, right?
Yeah. And in 2016, I had to attend a congress in Auckland, New Zealand. And at that time, before then, I had met a Chinese couple in Bologna, and they were interested in the book. So they invited me to Taiwan, for about a week. And whilst in Taiwan, they translated all the Asari books, into Chinese and published them.
Wow. Wow.
I've got
Wow.
the Chinese edition is also
It's also
available.
there now. So Skull is in Mandarin language. Wonderful. So today, as I mentioned when I introduced, parents are very particular about what kind of books their children are reading. Let's take a look at the journey of a parent who wants to incorporate reading in their children. Because sometimes we feel like, okay, we want our children to read, but we're not being able to get them to read. We try our best. What would you say a parent watching right now should do to assist their child to incorporate reading in their daily lives?
Well, I think parents themselves should be interested in reading. And when they see a book which interests them, or especially a book which they think will be suitable for children, they should read it first before they push it to their children. But I think if a parent himself or herself is very much interested in reading, definitely the children will copy her or him, in that habit.
So we should live by example.
Yes.
You want your child to read,
Yes.
you
Yes.
will have to read as well. So you say that some of this European attributes where they read bedtime stories to their children is something we should also start incorporating as well.
Yes, you would remember that, in, in the olden days, for instance, after dinner in the house, the children would sit by the grandmother or the mother or the father or grandfather, and they would telling them stories, Anansi stories. These things are going away or they've gone away, but the stories themselves are still there. And if you put them in the book, then the child can still enjoy it.
Okay.
So I think our previous habit of just sitting the children there and telling them stories, as our grandfathers and mothers used to do years gone by. Now probably we don't have time to sit there and tell the stories, because of the kind of work we do and things like that. But at least if we put the stories in books, and the books are there for the children to read, I am sure they will enjoy the stories. And it's very important that since the Europeans have shared their stories with us, we should also share our stories with them. It's a fair game.
All right. Thank you very much. So now let's come to the concerns of the publisher, of the writer, and even of the one who sells books. We have the opportunity to speak to stakeholders, those who make the decisions. We find ways to ensure that we are incorporating reading in our schools and everything. So, just over the top of your mind, what would you say to parents right now if, for instance, some books are not recommended? Because I can tell that part of the challenges we have today when it comes to reading is the fact that some of these books are not recommended in the school. So, for a parent who has a list of books and has recommended books already, what would you say to parents to be able to incorporate extra, and not think that somebody's taking my money or somebody's just trying to make me buy more and all of that? Because we have the opportunity to speak to you today, and we want you as a publisher who has done this for a very long time to help us educate guardians and caregivers in the area of buying books that are not even recommended as textbooks for their children.
Okay, and the readers that go into the schools must be sanctioned by the Ministry of Education. At least in Ghana, that is what happens. Before the ministry will buy a reader for the schools, they will vet it and make sure that it doesn't contain material that they don't want the children to see. So if they approve it, then it's okay. You can sell it wherever you want to sell it. But if it's not approved and it's got material that children shouldn't be reading, then of course the ministry will be very upset about it. And as I said, all the readers that go into the public schools are vetted by the ministry and approved. We have the National Council on Assessment, and they assess every single book. Before you can sell a book to a school, it must have been approved by NACA, your body that assesses the books, before you can do that. And schools also are aware of that. So before they take a book from you as a bookseller or a publisher, the book must have been assessed and approved by the Ministry of Education, and therefore it's okay. Recently, I think, earlier this year or so, there was a lot of talk about some books that contained certain material that shouldn't have been in the books, and therefore, and the publisher was selling the books in the schools, and the ministry became very angry about that, and because it's a national law that the books that go into the education system should be approved by the ministry, it is our responsibility that whatever we publish and we want to sell to children, we must send them to NACA for approval before we put them on the market.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's go to the challenges that publishers are facing. One of the challenge is the fact that sometimes we don't have the opportunity to exhibit our books for people to get to see, or people are not being rewarded enough when it comes to publications and all of that. Would you say that may be the case? I am trying to prompt that now. Is that kindly part of the case?
Well, each publisher has their own house policy, what they want to do, and the kind of material they want to put out. And in fact, there have been prizes, in past years for certain kind of books. For instance, there was a prize which was supported by the Toyota company for children's picture books. So if you do a book and the Children's Literature Foundation examine it and they think it qualifies to get that prize, they will recommend it and you will get that prize. And so many books, including one of my own, have won that prize before. Yes. So it's not, even though the ministry controls what goes into the system, so there's a big room for us to maneuver and get proper and good books into the system.
All right. So, what other challenge would you actually say that publishers are facing?
Everybody says that publishers are only concentrating on textbooks and that we don't do readers or things that would interest other readers. Well, it is true that we do a lot of textbooks, but the crux of the matter is that, when you do a textbook and the ministry buys the books, they buy it in bulk. Therefore, you get extra money to develop new books. And the excess money or extra money you get from publishing textbooks, you invest it in children's books. That is how we do the children's books. And of late too, the ministry and the Ghana Book Development Council, once in a while, they will order certain readers. I mean, practically all my readers are in the system because they've been buying them. They may not buy, say, 100,000 copies of social score, but they will buy about 100 or 500,000 copies of a particular textbook. So the profit that is made on the textbook, you invest some in the readers
stories,
and you develop a reader.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, we'll go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we get to see what we're going to play on the screen. Do not go away. Thank you very much. You're welcome back to the conversation. Before we went on the break, we went through a series of questions around challenges that publishers are facing and how to even get your book as a publisher to be approved, and how parents need to really look into what their children read before they purchase the book. So we continue with the rest of the conversation. We have to do with your recommendation. So looking at the challenges that we face, what would you recommend will be the way forward for everyone involved when it comes to the conversations around books?
Well, I would first of all encourage my colleague publishers, to publish more readers, that is storybooks for the children. This is because um, studying the textbook is good, and it gives you a certain certificate when you are in the school. But if you read, these stories, it broadens your knowledge and it opens your mind, and that is very good for the children. So it is our responsibility to give the children stories that will open their minds, that will interest them, that will make them love reading and improve their education aspiration, the educational aspiration. So it's very important. So far as I'm concerned, textbooks are important because the government insists on it. But readers are really what make the children learn it. Because by reading several stories, novels, plays, poems, by reading all those, you broaden your mind. And that is very, very good for the children.
Right, thank you very much. We are getting closer to the end of this session, and I'll be very happy to have at least 3 questions, one from this side, another from the middle, and then the last one from this side. Does anyone here have any question they want her to address? Okay, so while you're thinking through it, I just want to show to the cameras some of the works of our dear personality of the year. We have The Cross Drums. It's by Misha Kasari. And we have the ultimate book, Sosa's Call, that has been translated into several languages. We also have The Blue Marble. The Blue Marble is part of the books that she's published. And, okay. We have, wow, that's The Blind Footballer. The Blind Footballer. You really need to look at this book because I'm just wondering how a footballer will be able to play even in the midst of darkness. I'm not going to tell you the story. I have read a little bit about it and it's quite interesting. We see this other book. It's by Misha Kasari, Cat in Search of a Friend. So for parents who are actually looking for, books for their children, there's a myriad of a lot of them, and we have a catalog that will get to show you the books that she's published. Fly, Eagle, Fly, a Ghanaian fable, retold by Christopher, and then the pictures are by Nikki Daly. Wow, that's beautiful. And we have this one, Yenenga. Is that how to? Yenenga, I got it right. The Dagomba Princess. Okay, and then we have the Animal Village. I saw the French version of this one downstairs, and it's really good. She has a lot more books to her credit, and it'll be very good for you to patronize the 19th edition of the Ghana International Book Fair. It's still on, and it closes at 6 p.m. It starts by 9 a.m. in the mornings. So if you're watching right now and you're wondering how you're going to have access to lots of books for children, for adults, for business people, whatever kind of book you want, just come down to the National Theatre and get yourself as many books as you can. We are ready to serve you and to introduce you to a lot more of the books.
See Auntie are supposed to be a pay center. And I just want to know, as a woman, what were some of the class scenes? Because seeing her here, I know she overcame all those ones, but what were some of the challenges she faced? And yet she
Okay. In doing the children's books, these readers, one of my ambition was to be able to sell them even outside Ghana. And that didn't come easy. The avenues open were the book fairs, the international book fairs. And going to a book fair doesn't come cheap. Um, I normally, right now, the book fairs I attend regularly are Bologna, the Bologna Children's Book Fair, and the Frankfurt Book Fair. Now, Frankfurt, the stand alone is about 1,200, between 1,200 and 1,500 euros. In Bologna, they are often very sympathetic to Africans. So I've been going to Bologna for so many years, but each time they give me a free stamp. So I don't pay for the stamp. I just pay for my hotel and my transportation. It's expensive and to attend these international book fairs, but I have found them worthwhile. As I said earlier on, I met this Taiwanese person, in Frankfurt. He saw my books and he was interested, and he invited me to Taiwan. So I had to go to a conference in Auckland, New Zealand, and I just put it put it on the agenda. So from Auckland I went to Taipei, and from Taipei I came back to Ghana. So what I would say is that to do the book well and make it sell on the international market, it's quite expensive. But I think, if you do it well, you will get your investment back. Otherwise, I would have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah, very true. But to add to what his question was, so as a woman who's into publishing, did you have to have a side business to be able to invest into the publishing? Because, I mean, a lot of women in Africa are not so buoyant, especially in the times you were publishing. So, how were you able to get the funding to be able to go into publishing?
Okay, when I started, I was using my own resources. I mean, like I worked for a certain company, and the savings I made, and when I resigned from the company, I started using that. But with my first visit to Frankfurt, or I think Bologna, I met a Danish guy, and this person was interested in African children's books. So when we met, he said, what are you doing? I like to see your catalog and things like that. And at that time, Danida was running a program. It was called Danida Private Sector Development Program. And this Danish man and myself, we applied. And Danida supported us for 6 years. So for the 6 years, we were developing books, selling books, going to book fairs, and that is how I managed to go to places like Guadalajara and the rest. So I got that support. But when the program ended, we have done enough, and I could do things on my own without, any support.
Great. Thank you very much. So, please let's put our hands together for our personality. And that brings us to the end of this conversation.
I have journeyed beyond the memories of times. I have journeyed beyond the times of memories, from the past into the future, and I am back. I have stepped the soles of my feet on the kibbles of Kilimanjaro. I have dined and wined with the great one on the peak of Everest. I have sat or dined, and the drifts of the valleys I have risen, and now I am here. I am here with the words. I am here with the voices of the people. I am here with what they say. I am here through the night to this day. I am the hunter who never cocks a gun. I set my dying when my ancestors flee. I gauge my death through the rays of the sun. I put words to tell the story as the words. As they say, I bring to thee. I bring what they say. And now this is what they say. And I, I, I am bringing it to you.
Wow.
But with what power have we to present to you? With what authority have we to give? We are but little children, and on our lips you smell the scent of the breast milk. Are we fit to present this? No. We invite the director of the book fair. But this is too much for him alone. So we call the president of the Ghana Publishers Association.
All right. Coach. Yes, we want to crown your celebration with a citation. And you see your young publishers here. And of course, Mr. Beko has been with you for a long time and he's also with us here now. So we just want to offer you this citation, which Oswald will read for us. So Oswald, please.
Citation in honor of Miss Akosia Ofori-Mensah as the 19th Ghana International Book Fair Personality of the Year. From the depth of history, you have risen from sunset in our field of endeavor. And now, a shining glow, you are lighting the path for the present and guiding the steps of the come afters. Antiakos, indeed your souls are on the keyboards of Kilimanjaro, and your strides, they trumpet your ingenuity. At last, like everyone, the Ghana International Book Fair is pleased to present this citation of honor to you. We say, Ayoko, Ayoko, Ayoko.
All right.
I wish to thank the Ghana Book Publishers Association sincerely from my heart. I didn't really expect anything like this. I was, I didn't know what, when they said the personality, I didn't know exactly what they had in mind. And this has been a big surprise to me. I wish to say thank you very much for acknowledging the little contribution I can make to our industry. And I hope that those young ones coming would do much better than what I have done. I thank you very much, and God richly bless you. Thank you.
Amen and amen.
I've known Auntie Akus Ofori-Mensah of Sub-Saharan Publishers for more than 20 years, since I entered the publishing industry in Accra. I have found her to be a very focused individual, somebody who is professional in her endeavors. And she does not spare anything to get a quality job done. Indeed, on the quiet, she's been doing quite a lot in the industry. She has even taken upon herself to document aspects of the slave trade and other issues that are not in the popular domain. And every time she's made sure that she does a good job. When it comes to children's literature, she spares no amount of money to get well-designed, long-lasting books for children. And you see it in the awards that she has been getting. In fact, a few years back when Zimbabwe International Book Fair decided to collate 100 best books in Africa, one of her books, Sosi's Call, among the 100 best books in Africa. It was written by Meshakasa. In fact, I'm very happy that we are celebrating her as one of our own, because on the international market, she's made quite a name for Sub-Saharan publishers. A person who is having a great impact on the publishing industry in Ghana, but rather on the quiet. So if we are celebrating her, she more than deserves it. And I say kudos, Akus, and Sub-Saharan publishers.
I met Auntie Akus in 2003 during the IPA conference. I think she was one of the main organizers. So a friend of mine introduced me to her, and that's when we just clicked. I've been working with her since then, up till now. I think one of the main qualities that brought us together is that she's someone who believes in good quality material. So when we started working together and I saw what she produces and the extent to which she wants her books to be of a good quality, it encouraged me to do more works with her. She once took up the mantle of president of the association, and I think she did her best. At a point, she told me that, Kobe, I'm spending most of my time in this association thing, going back and forth. Sometimes you go and sit in the minister's office for the entire day just to see the minister, to promote or tell her, the minister, about the needs of the association. Aside that, she's a mother. She's my mother. I mean, all the industry, I can pinpoint her as someone who really mentored me, took me to herself, introduced me to certain places. I mean, it was through her that I got to work in Liberia. I got to work with other international bodies. And her exposure has been tremendous. I think it's an icon of the industry. And any time she's working, the lovely thing about it is that she doesn't think only about Ghana. She thinks international. And one thing, she's traveled worldwide. Anywhere there's books, you'll find Akus. She's someone who likes to give. And she doesn't really think before she gives. So far as she has, then there's no problem.
hope you had a good time watching this particular episode of African Women's Voices show. All too soon, we've come to the end, and I do hope you enjoyed the rest of our interesting lineup for you. Bye-bye.